Thank you for joining me for part 2 of The Veteran.
Some of both. It's multi-layered. But here's the thing. Anything bad affects poor people worse than everybody else because they don't have the resources to deal with it. They're barely surviving as it is, right?
Right.
So anything bad affects poor people worse, who have traditionally been the poorest group of people in this country. So anything bad impacts us harder. Is everything specifically targeted at us? No, because part of it's about keeping control. And if I can make poor white people view poor black people as their enemy, or just black people in general, I can keep that division going, which keeps that group from ever uniting and looking up to seeing what's really going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The thing though is I think people are starting to get a lot more, I hate to be streamlined, but a lot more woke these days, you know? I think they're getting more hip to that, but we're still having the same conversations that nobody wants to hear what anybody really has to say. I wonder if that really is a part of the problem or just another symptom of the problem.
I'm not sure myself. I do know that fathers not being present in a home contributes, but it's impacting white families too, just like black. But once again, the poorer you are, the more anything negative impacts you. I don't know. I don't think we've been doing non-traditional households long enough to know whether or not a two-parent non-traditional household yields the same type of results that a two-parent traditional household typically does. You know what I mean? I don't know if I made sense there. I don't think we have the data.
Right.
But I think that you lose something when both parents have to spend all that time in the workforce because other people are raising your kids.
Right.
Other people have more influence and spend more time with your kids than you do.
Yeah, but these people are getting radical because I remember, I don't know if your grandparents used to say this or not, but I can remember my grandparents saying it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So when I was a kid, you could get a whooping by anybody.
Me too.
And I gotta say, the generation literally right after me is when I saw that start to change. You better not whoop my kid. But like everybody in my family knew that if you left your kids and they cut up, them kids was going to have a well-whoop behind. Okay? Everybody knew it. And anybody that didn't like it, they didn't say nothing, or they whispered it, or they didn't leave their kids with them.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my rule for my nieces and nephews. You come hang with me, you get out of pocket, you get dealt with.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why we as a society shifted in the direction of that's wrong. You can't do that, and everyone's a winner, and coddle and helicopter. And
yeah. I don't know why we did either. I know a lot of it happened under the guise of giving a kid a whooping is abuse. There were some parents out there abusing their kids.
Oh,
if I'm being totally candid and honest, my mom would probably be guilty of having abused me because she whooped me when she was angry, which meant you could get hit with anything. Now, my father, I don't think I ever got a whooping from him that wasn't 2 weeks after the infraction or more.
Right.
And to be honest with you, though, I tell you what, it was more impactful because I freaking hated not knowing when I was going to get the whooping that I had earned. Oh, my God, that sucked. Walking around
psychological torture.
Yeah. Just beat me and get it over with.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's the same with me. Like my stepfather, he did not play, man. He would pull my pants down in the middle of the store and just start going at me. And by all accounts, what would be considered abuse by today's standards. Certainly, I never even myself viewed it that way because it was understood, if you're going to do something, know that there are going to be consequences for your actions. So it's not a deterrent not to do it. It's just how bad do you want to do it? Is it worth the punishment?
You learn risk management.
Right, exactly. And I think that was the most important thing. Not that there are consequences, but it's okay sometimes to bend the rules a little bit. You can't nothing in excess, and you can't go
Yeah.
hurt yourself or anybody else, But life is like that. Everybody wants nowadays for it to be black or white, but there's a little bit of gray there where those two colors mix.
Yep.
You got to kind of lead by knowledge. I've been here 40 years and I do things a little bit differently than someone who's been here 25, and you've been here longer than me and you probably do them a little bit differently than I do. I don't think any particular one way is right or wrong because we all pretty much got the same results.
Yeah.
We live in a nation where they're just a bunch of whiny people who,
Yeah.
if they don't get their way, and this is what perplexes me the most, at some point, even as unintelligent as I am, understand that there are just too many people, too many opinions, too much being said, and you're not going to be able to make everybody happy all of the time. So sometimes you've got to make the hard decisions, and people are going to get upset. But I mean, the stuff that they've got going on now, I mean, they'll drag you out in the street and draw and quarter you, man, over simple stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at Nick Cannon. He
Oh,
can
yeah,
choose his
man.
words carefully.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and celebrities have it the worst, and I don't know if maybe they've had it coming for a while. They did it to themselves. But again, this is one of those things that's not just going to stop at one particular group or race or anything like that. It always kind of spills over and just keeps perpetuating itself. I mean,
Yep.
Jesus, man, Martin Luther King was assassinated by a white man, and nothing, like I said, nothing changed from then till now. And I'm sure some fundamental things may have changed, and I don't want to sound like it's making a joke or I'm being candid about it, because it's really not that way. It pisses me off that out of all of that, you guys got a few victories. And it's like,
Yeah.
is that really what that man died for? Like, we are still debating the same shit now that we did back then. There's a problem there. We need to address why we're doing that. Why do all these movements keep failing and there's no real change? We've had a black president. You would think that even the naysayers would be a little bit more open-minded. And by extension, I'm sure a few of them have. But no, there's still a lot of...
Most just say he's the worst president we've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about it is...
Really? The worst?
The thing
Yeah,
about
he
it
fucked
is,
some shit up.
if that's their opinion, then that's cool. Again, you're entitled to your opinion. If you think he's the worst, I mean, then that's up to you. But to think he's the worst based just solely upon his outward features, that's a whole other thing altogether. Because I mean, let's face it, there's some things that he did that I didn't like, but there's also
Yeah,
some things he did I
agreed.
did like.
Agreed. I think that both sides are giving him too much credit.
Mm, yeah.
The left gives him too much credit. The right gives him too much credit. He was not as bad as they say, nor was he as good as the other group said.
Yeah. I mean, he was a man. At the end of the day, he was a man. He just happened to be the first African American president, which, and I say it that way, it sounds kind of like he was just an African American president, but that's really not how I mean it. I mean, he actually, I think he defied a lot of things that people, even I, never thought he was going to become a president, because I just in the world that we live in go, yeah, that's cool that he's trying to do that, and I give him credit for that, but I don't think it'll happen. And then what's even worse is when he became president, everybody was like, how long till he gets assassinated or something like that? You know what I mean?
I was convinced. I'll tell you, I grew up thinking, no, I shouldn't say thinking. I grew up knowing in my heart of hearts that the first black president was going to get killed.
Yeah.
That's what I knew. I was surprised that he survived. In fact, I was surprised he ran a second term, for starters. After seeing what the office was about, I thought he'd be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
I'm not putting my wife and daughters through this no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really surprised he did a second term. But I really thought the first black president was going to be killed in this nation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Honestly, I did too. And that's so messed up to even say, though. You know what I mean? Like, again, we haven't come anywhere in 60 years. We're still the same place. And they're out there
it's the
arguing
reality
about,
that I know, though. It's what America has shown me. That
yeah,
I didn't just randomly arrive at that decision, and I don't
yeah,
think you did either.
no,
America had shown us enough to think that that was the likely outcome.
yeah. But the thing about it is you were talking about black people being heavy consumers and affecting that way. I mean, there's got to be enough people out there who are willing to stand up and go, "This is wrong, man. You know, we need to do something." And again, I'm not talking specifically about a revolution, but I think that there are enough people who could get behind a good enough cause and say, "Hey, man, why can't we just start over and figure out a way to make." I hate to be totalitarianism about it as well, but I mean, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy. You just do the best you can to ensure that they have that right to be happy, the right that, again, the Constitution gives you. You're guaranteed the right to the pursuit of happiness, man. And everyone that
Yeah,
I look at, they're not. I mean, they're alive, but they're not living. Nobody is really anymore, you know.
no. So I came to the conclusion, and it could be right or wrong, um, but it's my opinion that black folks were brought here as a consumable item and a moneymaker. And my argument in that regard, and that's the intent, to keep us as something that money can be made off of. And the reason I say that is Marcus Garvey didn't want anything. Marcus Garvey said, we ain't going to get a fair shake of the stick, so we don't want it. Not going to fight for it. Tell you what I'm doing. I'm building a coalition of Pan-Africans, and if you want to get on board with me, we're going to go find us somewhere that will allow us to be full citizens and to integrate with their society and to have our own and to be treated with respect and all those things. And what did they do? They attacked his movement, brought him down on some trumped-up postage fraud charges, put him in jail for a little while, and when he left so disillusioned. I think he moved to France and died over there, just angry. And he wasn't asking for America to change anything.
Right.
He was buying ships so that black people that had had enough could get on him and leave with him.
And you said there were a lot of people behind that movement?
Yes, Garveyites. A little bit of history. And I had to learn this shit in college too, because we don't teach history in our public schools.
No, we're not good at that at all, man. Our whole
teach fairy
education
tales.
system is lacking.
We teach fairy tales.
Very much so. That history's been written many times over, though. I mean, it's probably not the same even when you were in school.
No, it's not. I had friends laugh at me. I told them, I said, black people were in the Americas before Columbus. They beat Columbus and Lee Erickson. There's a whole bunch of evidence. But what do our history books tell us?
Yeah.
We just want to talk about 1492.
Yeah, and Columbus. Yeah.
And then I studied my African history and learned I don't like Africans neither, because greed afflicts human beings. Period.
Yeah.
Point blank. Studied enough to know that there was a one particular African nation, and the name is escaping me, literally had a revolution because the regime in charge was selling Africans into slavery. So it had a revolution about that. The revolutionaries didn't like the Africans being sold into slavery. But when they got in power, everybody who wasn't Muslim, guess what they did? Sold them into slavery.
Yeah.
I was like, these motherfuckers. I was mad.
And
I was mad.
And you're right. That seems to be a problem that has been throughout your guys' history for what seems like ever. You know what I mean?
Greed. Greed everywhere. Slaves were the preferred coin of that time period. So if you wanted European goods and you wanted bang for your buck, you bought with slaves.
And why don't you think we talk about this stuff in schools? Like, I understand that it's a pretty and the only reason it is a pretty risque topic is because we just don't talk about it. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's still a part of American history. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree. But the same reason why we don't talk about the hypocrisy of the Declaration of Independence.
Hmm.
I told one of my friends, I said, because he was posting something about the founding fathers and this and that. I said, you know what? They founded a great nation, and that's where I'll leave it. I said, I don't have much respect for them. I appreciate the fact that they founded a great nation. What do you mean? You just hate America so much? You should be glad you live here. Black people have it worse everywhere else in the world. And that is my that's something that triggers me. Yeah. I have to literally regain control of myself when they run with that. You should be grateful to be here, because that one pisses me off.
I agree, and again, that's honest. One of those banter words that just it doesn't incite healthful conversation. You use that because you're anticipating an argument. You know what's wrong when it leaves your mouth. That's why you say it, type of thing. You know what I mean?
That one pisses me off, because what I hear when you say that is that you should be grateful for what we do give you.
Uh-huh.
And my point is, I'm supposed to be an American just like everybody else. I want everything that everybody else has.
Well,
what will make you happy? We had a black president. I said black people are about 13% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
When our numbers look like we are approaching 13% of the judges, 13% of the members in the Congress and in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
When, I'm not looking for exact numbers, but when the numbers somehow kind of measure up to reflect what society is, when we start looking at CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, can we get to 5, 7, 8% of that?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just saying we're not capable of it? When the numbers start to bear out that our representation is what we are in society, the percentages we are in society, I'll be quite content to say, hey, looks like we're doing pretty good here.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but until then, you can't tell me. I said, there's a reason why. What is it? Nobody's asking the question. Nobody wants to look. Nobody wants to talk about it. But the bottom line is that we're overrepresented in everything bad and underrepresented in everything good. That doesn't happen by accident.
No, it does not.
How does it happen exactly? I can't give you all the mechanisms. I can point to some of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is, and you can look at history and go to any nation in any period in the world, and you can find the group that's getting beat down on because they're going to be overrepresented in the prisons and underrepresented in the government.
Yeah.
And there's always a group. There's always a group that's getting fucked over for somebody else's benefit. Because human beings are greedy. And
I just, you're right about that. But again, that's one of those things that just, it kind of upsets me more than it gives me. It upsets me more than it gives me answers, because it's like money.
Yeah, I wish I had them. I really do.
Yeah, I know, man.
We're greedy to a fault. I mean, we're so greedy we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we can't see it. I used to tell sailors that work for me, I say, the best way to take care of yourself in the Navy is to take care of other people. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I say, if everybody knows that you're only out for you, who's going to watch your back? Or who's going to warn you about a pitfall down the road?
Man.
Or about a hazardous step you're about to take? Nobody. Everybody's going to stay silent. And they can't wait to see you freaking eat eggs, fail, have something bad happen to you, because they know you're a selfish piece of shit.
Yeah.
But if you're the person that always looks out for everybody around you, all those same people are looking out for you. Now you've got 360 degrees of coverage, and something bad is unlikely to happen to you without you having received at least a warning.
Right. No, that's a good point.
But people are still, we still want to get caught up in me.
I feel like I have to clarify here real quick, though. I put that the preamble in the Declaration of Independence that I put up. The reason I put that up, and I don't think very many people caught it, But if you do read it and go down where they list the reasons why they're asking for their independence,
Uh-huh.
90% of those reasons are things that our commander in chief are doing today. You know, again, because I got a lot of flack. And you talk about, you need to. They talk about, you need to do more research and look this up, bro, before you come at me. And it's like, all right. So that's why I put that up there. So, and it's oddly enough that when I did put it up there, not very many people commented or liked it or anything like that. And it's like you don't even understand what I'm saying, you know.
So, so for me, what I saw was a lot of those things, that the reasons that they were declaring their independence. For me, I said, and those are the same things that many black people in this country are still fighting for.
I don't think you could be any closer to the truth on that statement, man.
So, when I got into it with my buddy about the Declaration of Independence, I said, here's my real problem. They closed that out by pledging this on their sacred honor. I said, what kind of motherfucker has any honor that would do a thing to you that they're rebelling about being done to them?
Yeah.
I said, they had the nerve to close it with sacred honor? They got no honor. Oh, he
Yeah.
was, oh, man, nobody can live up to your standard.
And
I'm
again,
like, for real?
I really don't think I think people like that are so entrenched in America that they really, it's not really about, because if you guys, I'm sure, could sit down and have a beer together and say, look, man, it's not that I disrespect that or don't give it any credence, but you have to understand that it means something completely different to me than it does to you, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I say, listen, I understand your viewpoint, and I'm okay with you having that viewpoint. Just give me the right to have mine and understand that maybe there's some logic to why I have my viewpoint.
Right. Yeah. I will say this though, with everything that happened, I have become very educated, probably within the last 4 or 5 months. Like I told you with the Juneteenth thing, I had never heard about that. I didn't know what that was. You know, I know that sounds crazy, but again, it's not something
To me, it's not surprising. There's a lot of black folks that don't know, that are learning about Juneteenth right now.
Yeah.
Black folks in their 30s and beyond.
Yeah. I was talking to a young black man yesterday. I believe he said he was 25 years old, and I was kind of asking him the same questions that I'm asking you. I'm hoping he'll come on and let me do an interview with him, but I don't know. We'll see. But he was telling me that the way that he views it, a young 25-year-old black man, again in the South, that he didn't think that it was a systematic racism thing. He seemed to think that the elders are misdirecting the youth nowadays, that there isn't anybody standing behind the youth today and telling them what they need to be doing and how they need to be acting. He said that when he was growing up, he had what he called OGs around him who were more into stuff like that. But he said nowadays, and there's all this killing, and a big thing around here is young kids, 12 to 15 years old, I believe, are getting recruited to kill people. People take hits out on people, and they just, like the mob, it's like $500 here, I want that guy dead. And they give these little kids guns, and they go off and shoot people. And that's where the conversation kind of started with him, is like, this is what I'd heard. Is that true? He's like, yeah. And I don't think it's going to get any better because we don't even want to help each other. And that kind of resonated with me because, I mean, surely you don't have that view, do you? Do you think that your fellow African Americans don't want to help you, or are trying to keep you down in some way, or even hate when you do something great or make money or do something like that?
I default back to what I told you before. Everybody hates black people, even black people.
Yeah.
And we've been taught to hate what we are, and it's a strange juxtaposition, but it exists. it reminds me of, as much as I don't want shit to do with a cop in real life, I love every fucking cop show there is.
Me too.
I even root for the crooked cops.
Yeah.
it's you know.
That's just good entertainment, though, man.
But still, you know, you would think that I couldn't stand cop shows. I like the live cop shows. I mean, but I don't want shit to do with a cop in real life. And I've gotten to the point now where I don't even know that I'd call them if I need help. Here's the thing. I'll be goddamned if I'm going to call the police because I need assistance and then I'm the one that ends up in fucking handcuffs. Yeah. I'd rather somebody else make the call that puts me in handcuffs.
Yeah, and see, that's a problem that I have too. You don't even want to call the police because you're afraid that shit's going to turn on you, and you know damn good and well that you're dead to right. You know what I mean? Like some shit happened and you needed help, and then they come and fuck with you.
Yeah.
Like, what is that about, man?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not something. Yeah, I'm not calling the police. Somebody else can call them.
Well, what are
somebody
your
else can call them so they can come fuck with me, but I'm not calling for help.
Well, what are your views on defunding the police?
I don't think we need to. I think we just need to hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I had this argument with someone the other day. I personally believe that when a police officer gets found guilty of breaking the law, that their punishment should be a multiplier of what a civilian would get. Why? They're not special. Well, if they're not special, why do we give them special powers and special privileges?
Right.
Everybody should obey the law. Why is it any different when they break it?
Right.
It's different because they swear an oath not to, and they're paid not to with my fucking money.
Right. They have to be more morally upstanding than a regular citizen. I agree with you.
So they shouldn't be getting their hands slapped when they break the law. They get caught breaking the law. They should be getting 3 times the punishment that a civilian would get. And if that became the norm, you'd have less issues. If you start making them settle the lawsuit from the pension fund, from whatever group or police department that bullshit's happening in, those problems will fix themselves. Because once again, you're attacking the money.
Right.
You attack the money, you change the behavior.
Yeah.
Make themselves their own lawsuits from the police officer's pension fund, because now the good cops that don't say anything because there's repercussions for saying shit. Worst case scenario being Christopher Dorner, where you lose your damn job and they run you out of, you lose your livelihood. But the other repercussions are, hey, when you need backup, they don't show up. And I've got family that have been in law enforcement that know that to be a fact.
Right.
But if you start attacking the money, the good cops are stepping all the way up. Even the bad cops are going to be a lot less bad because they know nobody's going to put up with that shit now.
Well, I mean,
with our money.
I'm really worried that even if they don't defund them, a lot of them are going to end up quitting.
I don't know if I care that they quit, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it poses problems. I just don't know how much I care. I don't know that I know enough about the impact if law enforcement, numbers dwindle to X percentage from Y percentage. I don't know that I know enough about that impact.
Right.
And probably partially why I'm not super concerned is because I think I can take care of me and mine. And there comes that human beings are selfish aspect of the game. I'm not a super Second Amendmenter, but I definitely have guns. I do think that there should be reasonable checks and balances on getting firearms and all that kind of stuff. I don't run with the football hard in any one direction because I understand that you can take a good idea and run way too far with it.
Right. No, I agree with you too on that Second Amendment thing, especially. I've been in places where I have purchased a weapon for myself, and the guy next to me, and I'm thinking, holy shit, they're gonna give this guy a gun. But then, hey, here's the thing. In the same token, I got a concealed weapon permit So in the state of Florida, well, in a lot of states, but especially in the state of Florida where I reside, I can wear a concealed weapon. But my photo that they took for my concealed weapon, kind of like a driver's license photo, I swear to God, man, I look like Charles Manson on crack. Like, I know they got that damn photo and was like, we can't not give this guy a concealed weapon, but maybe we just need to, like, my picture's up on a wall somewhere. Then they're just waiting for me to come up across the news and go, yep, that one. So, I mean, the thing about it is, I guess it's another one of those things you really can't tell, because all of my weapons are for hunting. I've got one personal weapon that's for self-defense, and that's a 40 caliber handgun, and my wife has a 9mm. But all of my other weapons are just for hunt. I don't own an AR. I don't see a need to.
Mm-hmm. So we've got 3 handguns, 2 Glock 19s, and a small Smith & Wesson. They're all 9mm. I want this shotgun. It just hasn't moved up high enough on my priority list for me to drop $1,000 on it. But this Mossberg shotgun is freaking fully automatic.
Yeah, 10 shot.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'd have to look again, but it's right at $1,000. Oh, and it's sweet looking too.
Yeah, I think my friend got one of those.
Automatic.
If it's the same one I'm thinking about, that's a bad shotgun, man.
Right now, our dilemma is we're in the townhouse and we don't, space is at a premium. It's 1,800 square feet, which ain't bad, but we got a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So I have a small safe I can lock our handguns up in when we travel and we're out of town. Where am I going to put my shotgun? I'm against leaving my gun in my home multiple days in a row when nobody's here and it not be locked in something, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my current dilemma. We were just talking about it again today, where we could put a gun safe that would hold a shotgun. And I don't know. We haven't solved that yet. But when we get to Florida, definitely. Definitely. Human beings are making me more and more want to have, like I say, live on about 2 acres of land and far enough from my neighbors where if you come out there fucking with me, nobody even hears the gunshot that lands you under my pomegranate tree.
No, I get it, man. I get it. Anytime anybody comes on my property, it's never, hey, how you doing? It's like, what are you doing on my property? Because, I mean, there's not much around here, so you're either lost or up to no good, and I don't like people enough to go ahead and lean to the percentage that you're just up to no good.
Yeah.
You just never know. Hey, you mentioned earlier that you were trying to convince your wife to move out of the U.S. Where do you think you'd go if you did leave the U.S.?
Man, if I could con her tomorrow, we'd leave for the Philippines.
The Philippines, yeah.
We know a handful of retired folks over there. Our residual income would set us up. And virtually, and we'd have enough money to hire staff if we wanted.
So what's stopping you then?
Well, she's got a granddaughter down there in Florida.
Okay.
And she says she don't know nobody in the Philippines, but we actually both do know Navy folks that are retired in the Philippines.
So
the only downside would be, you're gonna. Yeah, she don't want to go there. She wants to go to Africa.
Okay.
I haven't seen the spot in Africa I want to go to, and I'll be honest with you. Right now I have a really serious grudge against Africans.
Okay, why is that again?
Because I have a better understanding now. So first off, you have to understand that most Africans look down on black men in the United States. Did you know that?
I did not.
An African man, if his daughter comes over here for school and he finds out she's dating a black man, oh, that's a problem. They look down their noses at us. Not all of them, obviously. I'm generalizing. They look down their noses at us. But now that I have a better understanding of exactly how complicit they were in slavery and how complicit their ancestors were in my existence here, and then you got the nerve to look down your fucking nose at me? Oh, no.
So
I want to visit Africa and see some sights. The fuck y'all motherfuckers, too.
So when did you figure this out? When did you realize that there was this problem?
Actually, in a history class I just recently took, when we really delved into slavery, I didn't understand what occurred. Europeans couldn't penetrate the heart of Africa to bring the number of slaves out of Africa that came out of Africa.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Africans had to do that. I didn't understand that entire African nations changed their way of life because of slavery. You had nations that decided, we're not going to do anything but go out and capture people and sell them into slavery because that is the best way we can make money. That gives us the most bang for our buck. So part of the reason that Africa is so far behind the rest of the world is you literally had nations in Africa not doing what a nation would normally do, developing infrastructure and building and inventing and doing all these things. So you had nations that were literally just straight up warriors, and we're going to go beat other nations over the head and take as many people and sell them into slavery as we can. And then you had nations that weren't good at being warriors. So you know what they were doing? They were fucking running and hiding. And then you factor in that, hey, we want young, healthy slaves that have already survived smallpox or the other major illnesses of the era. So you had amongst the healthiest and vibrant of Africa's population being shipped out to other parts of the world. And all of that contributed to Africa falling behind the rest of the world in its development. But Africans sold Africans into slavery. And here's the creme de la creme. And I'm probably going to use some words that you shouldn't use, or that I shouldn't use. We read an article that was written in 2017 by a young Nigerian lady. And the title of the article was My Great-Grandfather, or it might have been Great-Great-Grandfather, the African Slave Trader. And in this article, it talked about her great-grandfather, who became a well-respected member of the upper society in Nigeria through the slave trade. And he was proud of it. And his family members for many generations were proud of it. What got me the most, though, is when she went into discussing how they kept slaves as well. They kept some of their slaves.
Okay.
In Nigeria, the descendants of slaves were treated similar to the descendants of slaves in this country. So in my head, I sat there and I said, this is some bullshit. The niggas had niggas. I was like, and that's where I came to, started having the realization that at the end of the day, it's all truthfully about money and power. There are different levels and layers to the game, but the overarching game is money and power. And somebody's getting fucked over so that somebody else can gain money and power or keep money and power.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you go in the world, it's always happening. It always has been. Yeah. And that's frustrating to me because I would like to think we can be better than that. And I don't want to shove my religion down everybody's throat, but maybe that's what true sin is. It's just human greed is the basis of it.
I think that's a big part of it, yes. Yeah.
And that's the sin that we're all born with, is that humans by our very nature are greedy and selfish. I can't come to any other conclusion that we're not. You know, you'll find the anomalies, but overall, we're greedy and selfish. Some more so than others, but all of us, you know. And that's what that's what makes me want to move away somewhere and just live nice and comfortably. The more I look at history, the more I see the group that's been oppressed fight, and they're the revolutionaries. Then they win, they get in power, and guess what they do? They find another group and oppress them.
Yeah.
And it's a vicious freaking circle of human misery. And like I said, I'm aware enough to know that had I been on the other end of the spectrum, my viewpoints would probably be different than what they are now. You know, I'd like to say I would, you know, be a champion of the downtrodden, but the odds are I wouldn't. Best case scenario, I would be kind of, you know, willfully blind to it.
Right.
Or worst case scenario, you know, they bring it on themselves.
Yeah, no, I don't get that either. And again, I'm surprised that I never saw it before when I did see it. You know, I know you've read that story that I put up about the guy I was working with, and
yeah,
Not one to be up. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding, man. You know, like, really? You worried about that?
He was. And he was right too.
He was
He was right about what they would do to you.
and here's the thing about that. I would like to think that even then I wasn't so arrogant. That wasn't an aha moment. Like, it was more of like, it's not that I'm scared that got across to me, it's not that you made me understand because you've scared me. It's you've made me understand because I'm like, wait a minute. Like, we're going to kill our own people just because we don't agree with the color of another people? I mean, isn't that self-defeating? You know? Like, I don't like you hanging out with this person whom I don't like, so I'm going to kill you both for it. You know?
I think the guy's name is Dwight Zwerg. On one of those protests in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, was the first dude to get off the bus, the white guy.
Mm-hmm.
He volunteered. God put something special in that man.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the only thing worse than a Negro was a Negro lover.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And the pictures show what they did to him and what they thought of him.
Yeah. And that's just the point. I mean, you're talking about pure hate. You can't. That's more than just changing a man's mind. You know, you have to change a man's heart at that point. And I don't think that that's something that can be done. You know, it has to be something that pulls you out of that moment, like it pulled me out of the moment, and go, you know what? I get what you're saying now. I get it. Like, I didn't, but now I do, you know?
I think that level of hate is a reflection of the hate that they feel for themselves. I really believe that. I think it is a reflection of the hate that they feel for themselves.
Yeah, because some of those people really don't have a lot going on, do they?
They don't. But
they're not very educated either. Have you noticed that people who throw out a lot of hate are not very educated? It's not that I'm saying they don't look it up or get information first. They just, by and large, don't have a very... maybe it's not education. Maybe it's they're not cultured. I was lucky enough to have a little bit of both, street smarts and book smarts, and a little bit of culturing. So that kind of molds me to the person that I am, which I believe to be a very open-minded person. But just like anyone else, I have my faults and can get caught up in a conversation where I'm like, what the hell, man? Where just like you, I have to step back and go, look, man, I'm not a part of this conversation. Yeah. Education, man.
So one of my black friends posted, and he grew up in the neighborhood with me. So I kind of had it rough. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, but I caught the bus to a predominantly white school, and I was in the gifted and talented classes. So I didn't catch no breaks nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was Oreo all day in the neighborhood, and the other word at school. It wasn't a fun existence. It took me a lot of years to work that out in my own head, in my own space. But this particular guy said, are we going to let them divide us and rip this country apart and start this race war? And I told him, I said, if the expectation is that I'm supposed to accept second-class citizenship, let it burn. You're not a second-class citizen. I said, I didn't say that I am. I said, if the expectation is that I'm supposed to accept it.
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, in all honesty, you kind of are, you know? That's the messed up thing. I mean, anyone who, if we really valued life and each other as much as we even, a sliver as much as we even pretend to, then none of this shit should have got to where it is now, you know?
No.
When the first person got killed, somebody should have said, no, there is no room for this in today's culture. And the fact that we accept that is just, it's mind-blowing to me, you know?
So my friends like to make it sound like this is the media pushing a narrative that the police are quicker to brutalize black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, I said, well, here's my dilemma with that. I said, yeah, the media has definitely been caught over the years pushing narrative bunch of times. I'm down with you on that. I said, but we have a history of mistreating black people that dates back hundreds of years. I said, man, I got my own life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I got those stories that my family members have told me, from my father to my brother. I've got my own experiences. Mine ain't bad, but they bullshit when you pull over 4 black dudes who are driving in a nice car because supposedly 4 black dudes in a car the night before snatched a purse.
Mm-hmm.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they just came out with the data for how often black people get stopped in San Diego than other groups of people, and it was hundreds of times more often, even though we're a far lesser portion of the population.
What's worse, though, the fact that there never was 4 guys that stole a black purse, or 4 black guys that stole a purse, or that there were, in fact, 4 black guys that stole a purse, and you guys, quote unquote, happen to match the description?
I don't know that a purse was stolen. That's just what we were told. I've got no way of knowing.
Right.
But who's going to have the purse the next fucking day?
Yeah.
The next fucking day?
Obviously 4 black men in a car. and here's the deal with that. I'm sure that every time that they've pulled 4 black men over in a car because they look like someone who stole a purse, I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10 there probably was no purse in that car.
Yeah. And the proof is in the pudding, though. You know, unfortunately, black men have been America's scapegoat for everything from time immemorial. Remember when an old girl said that a black man carjacked her and drove off with her kids?
Yeah.
And the world ate it up.
Yeah, like
black
Meatloaf,
people ate
man.
it up. We ate it up, you know?
Yeah.
Favorite scapegoat.
Yeah.
The vast majority, and I don't remember the numbers anymore, of the people that the Innocence Project proved are innocent are black by far. What does that tell you? It's not an accident.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a problem there. I'm glad that they actually started looking back into that, and that DNA, you know, got to where it is now, to where they can actually go back and say, hey, this is proof and evidence, you know?
And then they've gone back and they've pulled data. So for people wrongfully in prison, you know, they usually get some money.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone back and pulled the data.
Mm-hmm.
And by far, guess who gets the least amount of money?
Yeah. Yeah.
and we've got the magic reverse winning lottery, but we're being told it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy though. And I know I keep going back to why aren't we just standing up for each other and helping each other out as opposed to pushing each other down, you know?
That I can't answer. I'll tell you this though. My biggest frustration when I made chief in the Navy for the first 3 years was what I thought was going to happen and I'd be able to do versus what did happen and what I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I made chief, I said, man, the black guys that work for me are going to have it made because I'm going to make sure shit is fair. Okay, not I'm going to hook them up, but I'm going to make sure shit is fair. They're not going to have to watch anybody get the award that they worked for. They're not going to have to earn it twice or 3 times to get it once.
Which is something you had to do, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the vast majority of them thought I was just going to give it to them.
Hmm.
Oh, I was so angry. I was so heartbroken. I was so, oh my God.
Hmm.
They gave me more problems than anybody else.
Yeah, I could see that.
And they didn't understand. I said, you don't get it. And I gave them the brief. I said, I'm not going to give you nothing. But I promise you, if you earn it, you won't watch nobody else get it.
Mm-hmm.
But they wanted me to give it to them. And I said, listen, you don't even understand this. The first time that it appears that I'm hooking people up just because they're black, all of my power is gone.
Right.
My word means nothing. I said, so I have to make sure that I'm extremely firm while I'm being fair. You know, because my friends, well, you know, Obama could have fixed all this stuff while he was in office. Oh, really? Really? The first time it would have looked like he was just hooking up black people.
I think he actually got accused of that, didn't he?
I didn't track on everything he did. Not to my knowledge, but I wouldn't doubt it. He got accused of giving a terrorist fist bump. So
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I I don't get it, man. I really don't. I like you wish the world had a lot more tolerance to each other and each other's opinions and views.
and I'll tell you what I do find: the people that have traveled the world the least are the most intolerant,
Yeah, the culture, like I said, cultured, man. And
cultured.
yeah, the more
Because my
cultured.
travels taught me that people everywhere, your everyday people everywhere, want the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
They want to give their kids a better life than they had. They want to be free to practice or not practice religion as they see fit. And they want a government that's not completely overbearing and corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if those were Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists or whatever. All the everyday people wanted the same shit out of life.
Right.
But I can't exploit people who are all on the same page, so I have to keep them divided.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. That damn division thing is getting out of hand. It really is. Like
Yeah.
there's nowhere that they can't go, you know? You see it everywhere. Way more than you used to. It was there, I guess, always kind of
Yeah.
in the background.
And then, oh, you just hate cops. I was like, how can I hate cops?
Hmm.
My favorite cousin is a police officer.
Yeah.
Another good cousin that I'm close with is a police officer. My
Yeah.
cousin's kids are police officers.
Yeah.
How can I hate cops?
Yeah, and I think that that's just a go-to, man, because it seems I had the same argument with someone about gun rights, and I was saying, it's your right, the Second Amendment, it's your right to have a gun. Oh, you don't care about all the kids that have been killed and this, that, and the other, and it's like, bro, like that's not what I'm saying at all, man. And I think it comes down to any self-respecting person who has any common sense and who's a good judge of character is going to say the same thing that I'm saying. Of course that was horrible. Anytime there was ever a shooting, people like me just kind of hung our heads and was like, it just makes it harder for the law-abiding citizens. But
Yeah.
it's just like every other problem, man. And the news, I think, perpetuates it because they just keep jumping from one thing to another, and pretty soon you're like, geez, we really live in a fucked up world, But it's like you never
Yeah.
report on the good stuff. You're always talking about the bad stuff,
Good stuff doesn't sell.
Yeah, well, that's why I can't get behind like MSNBC and CNN and Fox and all those. I go to the independent sources.
So I had an individual tell me that if you want unbiased news about what's happening in the United States, watch Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera. I've heard that myself. I use I think it's WION. It's a Hindu station, Indian, but they seem
Mm-hmm.
to give a pretty fair shake on both sides. Like it doesn't matter who messed up. If they messed up, they call them out, and if they do good, they say, "Hey, man, they're doing good." But it's not just for the U.S. It's kind of all over the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Al Jazeera reporting is more unbiased because essentially they're not fans of America, period. So they don't have a left or a right bias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's another thing I think that we have a problem with is we shift so violently from one side to the other. We can't get the middle ground. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. We don't even slow down near the middle ground. Uh-uh. Full speed ahead in no man's land every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I don't get that either. That seems like very reckless behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a discussion with another Navy buddy, and I said, do you really think Muslim countries hate us because we're Christians? Yeah, they hate our religion and they hate our freedom. I said, that's not what they hate. So you obviously haven't cracked the history book too deep. Do you know what we've done in their region of the world over and over?
Yeah.
The shit we've done as a nation, we wouldn't let anybody do to us.
Well, and to that, I think that's probably why the Second Amendment will never be overturned, because we've made so many enemies that there's probably going to come a time where hey man, the Japanese said it when we dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. He was like, should we go and invade? And Nah, man. What'd he say? There's a gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah. It's we've done a lot of stuff to people, and we don't, as a nation, we haven't been a very good friends.
No, we haven't.
We're fair weather friends. As long as we think it's going our way or convenient, oh yeah, we're buddy buddy. But let it get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Deuces.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about term limits, but I think term limits should be something set for all.
I do. I agree with term limits, and I want. I don't know if you saw a post, but one of my friends posted about. Might even been one of my cousins, that they don't want to see the tax returns of a billionaire who gave up his lifestyle to save the country. They want to see the tax returns of people who make $174,000 a year who are now billionaires. My response is, I want to see them fucking all.
Yeah.
I want them all. In fact, if I had my way, from the moment you decide to run for office, your previous 2 years' tax returns become a public record. If you win that office, your tax returns for the rest of your fucking life are public record.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Limit corruption. Since you guys won't limit your own greed, we should be able to limit it. We should know who's putting money in your pocket, so we can see if your voting starts to line up with the people putting money in your pocket repeatedly.
And I agree. I think transparency is the only way that you're going to see that happen.
Yeah. Transparency. Limit the fucking greed.
Yeah.
We don't need to see Donald Trump. Yes, actually we do. Because he's got a lot of foreign business interests. You don't think that might affect foreign policy?
Man, he's in the Russians' pocket. You cannot tell me that he doesn't owe the Russian mafia money. There is no way that him and Putin aren't best friends.
I'm hard-pressed to believe that he doesn't owe a lot of money a lot of places.
I know that's right. I was talking to another buddy of mine about that. He's like, have you ever stopped and thought that maybe he is completely broke, but he owes so much money that they have no choice but to float his ass at this point?
Yep.
Because if they let it all go, then they don't get any return?
I didn't know that a bunch of the properties that bear his name aren't owned by him anymore.
Really?
Really.
Now, is that because he had to give up ownership when he became president, or is that something completely different?
Completely different. He sold off properties because he couldn't maintain them, but he worked into the deal that they would keep his name on them. Fucking brilliant. A brilliant businessman.
Yeah.
I got to give him that. Ultimately, I think he's an idiot, but I do think he's a brilliant businessman. That I do think.
Yeah, commercialized his name. Yeah.
You know, he owns a property in Vegas. That was the first time I'd heard of it, but there are multiple properties. There's a Trump property in Vegas that's not owned by Trump. It's actually owned by Hilton. But it's got Trump's name on it.
It's weird that they could do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you wouldn't even think that people would have buildings with their name on it, but they don't own them.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, if it's got your name on it, then it's got your brand endorsement, so you got to be getting something off of it, right?
I don't know if he's still getting money off of it. I just know he doesn't own it. For me, it would be just that. You've got my brand, and I don't have control of how my brand is being maintained.
Right.
Which goes back to my beef with Black Lives Matter.
Right.
They're not maintaining their brand.
Right.
You know, nobody can protect the brand perfectly, but I think they could do much better than they're doing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I have a feeling that it might be starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it is. But I don't know, man. I don't know how any of this is going to play out. But that's why I started buying bullets.
Well, and the problem now is not the thing is it's not Black Lives Matter is quote unquote a problem anymore. Is you've got that Portland thing that's taken over the news with the goon squads and such.
I'm concerned about law enforcement with just showing up in camis with guns.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck are they? And if that's how they show up, what's to stop a bunch of Joe Blows from suiting up in similar fashion and start snatching people for whatever purpose? You know, human trafficking, you know, whatever.
I agree. It does set a dangerous precedent.
And how are we tracking who's being taken by whom and where they're being taken, where they're being held? Is due process being applied? How can you track that when it seems like the reporting makes it seem like they're kind of unknown, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And once again, do you trust the fucking reporting? I don't trust any reporting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the problem, man. It's like even the information you get is no good. You have to kind of make your own decision by connecting the dots. But I mean, even that's just a crapshoot, you know?
Yeah, it's just a crapshoot. I would say that for me, that is the most frustrating thing of all, is just not being able to rely on any fucking information that I have.
Right.
I'm just, in a lot of ways, I'm just going with a gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's hard enough to make good decisions. Making good decisions is challenging.
Mm.
But if you don't have good information, now you're just throwing darts with a blindfold on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't really make an informed decision, you know, if you don't have good information. If the input you put in, you cannot make an informed decision. And again, just like a lot of people I know who Fox and MSN, CNBC and XYZ and whoever the hell else is on the scene, they eat that shit up like meatloaf.
Yeah.
And it's either one way or the other, you know. No, Joe Biden, he's going to get it, and then blah, blah, blah. And then you have the right wings going, you know, fuck this and this, that, the other. But you got to understand that whatever side you stand on, there's someone directly opposite of you who feels just as passionately the way you do about what you're saying, you know?
Yeah.
You should be able to almost expect that resistance, you know? Like it almost makes you a better debater, you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel by now my craft should be top notch as much as I talk to these people on Facebook. I should be one of the smartest people, like, at least in Florida. Because I do, man. Somebody tells me, go look that up. I go look it up. And I go, hey, oh shit, I was wrong, man. All right. But if I'm right, you know, I don't get that closure because it's not like I can go back to that post and be like, hey, by the way, this, that, and the other, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. It's all about the little victories.
Yeah,
it's all about the little victories.
Those morale boosters, man, you know, and being in the service, I know you know about those morale boosters, man. Those things can turn your whole week around.
Definitely.
Well, I feel like I only have 3 more questions for you, man. They're the first ones I told you about. So the first one is what's one thing that you love about yourself?
I love that I can get along with anybody that wants to get along with. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
If you drop me off in a room full of strangers, I'm going to leave with a bunch of new friends more likely than not. And I'm going to learn something from people that have the different background too, because I'm curious.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm the same way. My wife and I will be just sitting around and somebody will walk up and just start talking. It happens all the time. People just walk up and start talking to me. She's like, you know, you kind of got a gift that way. People just, they see like a beacon, I guess. I don't know. What's one thing you hate about yourself?
I'm lazy.
Well, at least you can admit it. So, I mean, we can start working on it, you know? Are you lazy or do you just procrastinate?
Oh, no, I procrastinate as well, but that doesn't bother me so much. I'll fix that tomorrow.
No, that's not the problem.
Like I was saying earlier, actually, I'd say I'm growing complacent, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm just at a stage in my life where, you know, I want to see the world and I want to enjoy myself. I have a bucket list and I want to check off items. Yeah. And I want you to leave me the hell alone while I do it. Now while I'm doing those things, I'm not out there freedom fighting, protesting, but I'm spending my money and I'm doing things in a fashion that kind of aligns with the principles that I believe in.
Awesome.
But, you know, part of me wishes that I still had maybe that fire that I had as a young man in me to get out there and be on the front line. But the reality is, I'm looking at my life. I'm almost 50. I figure I got another good 25 years. And you know what? There's shit I want to see and shit I want to do.
You know, and I think that's reasonable. I believe that's very reasonable. I mean, considering you're right, you've done your time in the trenches, man. you've paid your service to your country and lived your life, and I think that's great that you can sit back and enjoy it. And I mean, may not be able to do everything you want to do, but shit, if you just start checking items off your list, eventually you'll get there, you know?
Yeah, this year, the items that we thought we were going to check off, we didn't get to.
Mm-hmm.
Although I imagine that doesn't make me special. I'm not, and I don't even imagine. I know that doesn't make us special.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
COVID-19 worked its magic, but we checked off some bucket list items last year. Got to watch the ball drop in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Niagara Falls. We were supposed to hit up Barbados this year. We were supposed to hit Aruba this year. Mm-hmm. We'll see what next year has to offer.
Hell yeah.
What we can do. We don't have any out of the country travel planned until 2022 because we're operating under the assumption that the world will have figured out how it's going to move forward in the presence of COVID-19.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what everybody's doing. Just kind of see what's going to happen. I think they know something that they're not letting us know about the way it transfers and who all's going to get it and who all's not. But that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
Well, what's one thing you wish you could change about the world?
I wish more people could travel.
Yeah. Travel to see the world or travel to become cultured?
I don't know that you can do one without the other. But it was a while. It was deep into my Navy career before I realized that a lot of folks don't get very far from their hometown and definitely their home state.
Mm-hmm.
And the world isn't what, people think.
Yeah.
And you've got to see it to find out.
Yeah.
But it's not what most people have been led to believe. It's far different.
Yeah, I mean they're dealing with some stuff over there across the water too, But they make it sound like it's just us, like we're the only ones who have the problems. But I mean, again, if you were to actually get out and look around, you'd see that we're not. This isn't something that's just predominantly American.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all trying to fight the good fight.
Exactly.
I appreciate you calling me and getting up with me and calling me back. And I'd love to have you on again if you ever want to hash it out.
Sure.